that we're going to be inking, we have, we're going to be putting it in black. There you are. There you are. There we go. Okay, so the inks that we're using here, these are etching inks. Now, printmaking ink, there's a couple different types of printmaking ink. The difference is really just how loose the body of the ink is and how much pigment it is. I like to use etching inks in the context of relief because it's still pretty workable and you can get a good lay of ink on the surface of the block. Now, you'll see here is that when we get ink out of the can, you really want to make sure that you're not scraping or gouging the surface of the ink. What you really want is a sort of smooth ice skating rink. So we're just going to kind of like scoop ink around and try to like keep it as smooth and flat as possible, okay? Without making deep crags in the ink. The reason for that is because the more textured the surface of the ink is, the quicker it dries out, right? It's like the reason why a brain has all those little nooks and crannies is because you need more, you know, blood flow inside of the brain, right? And this is the opposite of that. We want it to be we want as little evaporation as possible. So I've got a little bit of ink out, and then I'm gonna kind of like work it a little bit. Actually, probably need a little bit more, okay? Since more than one person will be inking in black, I can get a little bit of extra black out, and you all can kind of like drink from the same watering hole. Like gazelles. Okay. And this is a good opportunity. I just got a little bit of ink on the side here. And so you'll notice as you go, could you grab me a rag from that corner? There's a box. Straight. Just put your hand out. So the key here to keeping this experience less messy is to make sure your tools are not messy. So if you get ink on your fingers, just like if you keep everything clean, your hands will actually stay clean. So this is not a process I normally do with gloves on because I want to feel if I've got ink on my hands and make sure everything is clean. So I shouldn't have ink on my hands, and if I have ink on my gloves, I can't really feel that, and then I have inky fingerprints all over the print shop. So I'm going to go ahead and warm the ink up a little bit, kind of scrape it up and then smear it out, scrape it up and smear it out. And this just sort of helps loosen it up a little bit, helps me see if there's any little boogers in the ink that I need to pick out. If you're making a custom color, I have here this box full of mystery inks. Look here first for any color that you need to make, okay? And go ahead and take all of it out of the thing. So if you're gonna use some pink, go ahead and take the whole thing out, and then when you're finished, you can repackage it, and I'll show you guys how to do that in a little foil to save for later. All right, all right, there we go. That looks pretty good. Now, what's nice about black is it's usually pretty well behaved. I don't have to modify the black very much, and this is feels pretty good. If those of you are used to painting, the printmaking inks are just a little bit thicker and stiffer than what you might be used to. Now, I've got here a brayer. The brayers live in that drawer in the corner that says brayers. And you might be watching some YouTube videos where you see someone just roll through the ink. No, we're not gonna do that. Because then you have no control over how much ink is on the roller. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a little bit of ink and you're gonna do a little drawdown right there. That will be what you'll roll through. And here we're really controlling how much ink we have on the roller. And as I do this, I'm bringing it up and down, and then I'm giving it a little pickup. So it's up and down and a little spin, up and down and spin. And doing it like this means that it doesn't land in the same spot of the roller every single time, and it really evens it out, right? So now I have a pretty even ink. Also, you can see that the texture, it kind of looks like crushed velvet. It does not look like orange peel. Okay, so this, the way you can tell if there's enough ink is it's actually a sound. So as I do this, it's a soft sound. That's what we're going for. I've heard it referred to as the velvet whisper. So you need the velvet whisper. And then let's go ahead and ink this up. So we want to get the ink pretty evenly everywhere. And we want enough ink that it's going to print richly, but not so much ink that it's going to fill in those lines. So this is kind of sometimes can be like a moment of truth where you really kind of get to see what's happening on your block for the first time. And I always under ink my blocks. It's like a personal affliction. My professor told me that I was a chronic under inker, and that has remained true. So I have to I always it always looks ready, and I'm like, but then I need to just add a little bit more ink. I know this about myself. This little block needs a haircut. There's a little bit of ink right here. This is totally gonna get ink on it, and it's totally gonna print. Could you turn behind you? There's a drawer right at your hip. Are these left-handed scissors? Oh my God. Okay. All right. So that'll kind of keep it from getting ink in that one spot. Now, once your slab starts to go thin and it doesn't have enough sound anymore, you can always add more ink to the slab like that and kind of replenish it. So again, you're still really in control of how much ink you've got on the slab at any one given point, okay? So and you want to be really careful about inking because sometimes you have little details that can fill in pretty easily. So I'm seeing right now a little bit of your extra fine scrapings are filling in a little bit. That was maybe inevitable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was maybe inevitable here. But we want to make sure that we get a nice rich black layer of ink. Okay? So that's kind of the sweet spot. So I think this looks like a pretty good amount of ink. You can kind of see the light shine on it, especially if you look at it on the side. But you can also see where the lines are more vulnerable to getting filled in. So if you look at these really delicate lines right here, we got a little bit of fill-in right there and a little bit of fill-in right there. It happens. I could do a thinner layer of ink or carve those a little bit shallower. So those are your two options there. All right. Next up, let's go ahead and wash our hands before we touch the press. For questions? Okay, so this is now ready to print. Let's take it over to the press. Okay. This is our Sturgis press. It's an antique, and we're going to be printing with 2 blankets. So if any of you have done etching, you'll know that etching we print with 3 blankets. For relief, I want a little bit of firmer pressure, so I've opted for a 2-blanket pressure. I've seen relief printmakers print with 1 blanket. I've seen relief printmakers print with a piece of cardboard. I've seen relief printmakers print directly onto the barrel. That was bold. This I feel like gives me a little bit of embossing and a little bit of just a little bit of squish. So let's go ahead and grab that registration template. So here I have a little bit of a plastic sheet, and I'm going to tuck the registration template under the plastic sheet. And it's a little scratched up, it's hard to see. I'm going to scooch it forward and use that now to line things up. Okay? If you forget this and put your registration on the top, it will immediately get dirty. Good luck keeping your paper clean that way. All right, next up, your paper. So we've lined this up. Everything looks beautiful. Your top border's a little shrimpy. We'll talk about that. It's fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and just line this up like this. So I like to line it up on 2 edges and lower it down, okay? And then before I run it through the press, so we're gonna keep these blankets clean, okay? I know it's hard, and they don't look like they've been super clean, but these blankets have been around for years, and we try to keep them as clean as we possibly can. So I always cover up the paper with a sheet of backing paper, just in case. And that kind of helps. Sometimes you don't need it, but if you're in the habit of doing it, that one time you do need it, you've done it, okay? Kind of make sure, try not to let things move around. And then we want to make sure that the pressure is set right. So if you look at the little knob here, you'll see that the pressure is set at 80/2. That's what's happening right here. The way it is again, I know we're not talking about math in this classroom. It is literally the number 80 over the lines 2. The bottom stripe being 0. And that measurement is written right here. Lino 2 blanket relief, 80/2. Okay, so that's how we're setting the press. we can't see 3, so it's still over 2. Okay, and you can not every press has a little cheat code of pressures on it. Then what I like to do is I like to sort of stand on this side and kind of push the press bed in with my chest, like kind of lean into it a little bit like this. Don't let your fingers run under it. And you can kind of feel it as it goes under the press. Okay? When printing, we have a number of variables. We have how much ink we put down on the press. We have how much pressure we're using. And then we have, is the paper dry or not, and the quality of the paper. So there's, several variables that we're trying to factor for to get a good print. So we'll see how this one printed. I feel pretty confident that this is the right pressure because I know this press very well. You can sometimes, peek and be like, it looks pretty good. Ta-da!
Yay.
All right. So this is your chance to think about it, decide if you need to make any changes, if you need a little bit more texture in one spot or another, and then we can go ahead and edition this. All right. Thank you.